Ever felt like your HOA has too much power? Imagine being told you can't proudly display a flag on your own property. This isn't just about a flag. It's about a homeowner's right to express themselves versus an HOA's overreaching rules. But here's the twist. This battle wasn't just about property rights. It was fueled by something far uglier, racism hiding behind neighborhood policy. You won't believe how far the HOA went, how cruel the tactics became, and how one immigrant father turned humiliation into a victory that shook an entire community. Hit subscribe to join our community. The keys to his home. For years, he had worked 2 jobs. Construction by day, warehouse shifts at night, saving every penny. His dream wasn't luxury, it was stability. A safe home where his daughter Sophia could grow up with opportunities he never had. The house was modest, a single story with a small porch, but to Carlos, it was a castle. The first thing he did after moving in was hang 2 flags, the American flag, and just below it, the flag of his birth country. To him, they weren't decorations. They were his story. One represented where he came from, the struggles and sacrifices. The other where he now belonged and the freedom he believed he had earned. At first, life seemed normal. Sophia played hopscotch on the driveway, Carlos mowed the lawn on weekends, and neighbors offered polite waves. But beneath the surface, things weren't so welcoming. A few neighbors seemed cold, their smiles tight, their conversations short. Carlos brushed it off. He was used to being the outsider. Then came the letter. It was crisp, formal, with the HOA's seal at the top. The violation? His flags. The board claimed they didn't align with community standards and disrupted neighborhood uniformity. He was ordered to remove them within 10 days or face fines. Carlos's heart sank. He knew plenty of neighbors displayed banners, sports flags, seasonal decor, even political signs. None had been targeted. So why his? The answer came quietly, through whispers and looks. At a neighborhood block party, Carlos overheard a board member muttering, "We don't need foreign flags in this neighborhood." Another added, "It makes the place look cheap." It wasn't about policy. It was about prejudice. Carlos tried to ignore it at first, hoping it would pass. But it didn't. Instead, it escalated. The next few weeks felt like a campaign of intimidation. Letters arrived weekly, each one harsher. The fines grew larger. $50 for the first offense, $100 for the second. By the third, the HOA warned of legal action. Then came the public shaming. One morning, Carlos stepped outside to find a bright orange notice taped to his front door. Violation. Remove unauthorized flag immediately. Neighbors walking their dogs slowed down, staring. Sophia clutched her father's arm and whispered, "Papa, why are they mad at us?" That question cut deeper than any fine. How do you explain to an 8-year-old that people who look like her father are held to different standards? Carlos wasn't the only one who noticed. His friend Tom, a longtime resident, quietly told him, "Carlos, this is racist. I've had my army flag up for years, never got a single letter." But most neighbors stayed silent. Fear of HOA retaliation kept them from speaking out. Carlos felt increasingly isolated. The once proud symbol on his porch had become a daily reminder of hostility. As pressure mounted, racism became harder to ignore. At an HOA meeting, one board member suggested, "If we let him fly that flag, what's next? Everyone bring in their countries here? This is America." Another snickered. "He should be grateful we even let him live here." Carlos's fists clenched. He wanted to yell to defend himself. But he stayed quiet. Not because he lacked courage, but because he was planning. He began documenting everything: letters, fines, remarks. He kept photos of other homes with unpunished flags. He recorded comments when possible. Each piece of evidence told the story the HOA wanted buried. This wasn't about rules. It was racism, plain and simple. Still, the HOA doubled down. They set a date for a formal hearing where Carlos would be forced to defend himself. Failure to comply could lead to liens against his home. The house he worked his whole life for was at stake. The pressure took a toll on his family. Sophia began avoiding playing outside. His wife worried constantly, asking if they should just take the flag down to avoid trouble. But Carlos refused. "If I take it down, I'm teaching Sophia to bow to hate," he said. The night before the hearing, Carlos couldn't sleep. He sat on the porch, staring at the flags swaying in the night breeze. He thought of his father back home, who always told him, "Dignity is worth more than money. If you lose it, you've lost everything." This wasn't just about a flag anymore. It was about respect, belonging, and standing up when others want you silent. The hearing was held in the HOA's community hall. Rows of folding chairs filled the room, neighbors sitting quietly, whispering. At the front, the HOA board sat stiffly, stacks of papers in front of them. Carlos walked in holding his binder of evidence. His hands shook, but his resolve was unbreakable. The board began, reciting his violations with icy formality. Mr. Ramirez has repeatedly ignored written requests. His flags are not in compliance. Continued defiance undermines community harmony. Then it was Carlos's turn. He opened his binder, laying out photo after photo of other flags allowed without issue. Sports teams, seasonal banners, political slogans. He read aloud comments he had recorded. Foreign-looking, cheap, should be grateful. He looked directly at the board and said, "You didn't target flags. You targeted me, because I'm an immigrant." The room grew heavy. Some neighbors shifted uncomfortably, realizing the truth. Then Carlos spoke from his heart. He told them about leaving his homeland, working 2 jobs, saving for this house. He explained what the flags meant, his past and his present, his heritage and his hope. His voice cracked as he said, "I thought in America we could be proud of who we are. But here in my own home you tell me I don't belong. If that's the America you believe in, then it's not the one I came here for." Silence. For the first time, the board had no smug remarks. The weight of his words cut deeper than any rule book. Neighbors in the audience began nodding, some whispering support. One woman called out, "He's right. This isn't fair." The dam had cracked. The HOA had been exposed, not as protectors of community standards, but as enforcers of prejudice. Days later, news of the hearing spread beyond the neighborhood. A local journalist picked it up, framing it not as a property dispute, but as a case of racism hidden behind HOA rules. Soon, the story was everywhere, on social media, in community forums, on local TV. Under public pressure, the HOA backed down. They rescinded the fines, dropped threats of legal action, and quietly rewrote their flag policy. What they once tried to use as a weapon became a shield for others. But the victory went deeper. Inspired by Carlos's stand, other families began sharing their own stories of discrimination by HOAs across the country. Some had been told to change ethnic decorations. Others were fined for religious symbols. Carlos's fight became a spark for something bigger. For Sophia, the lesson was priceless. One evening, as they stood on the porch together, she looked up at her father and said, "Papa, you didn't let them take our flag." Carlos smiled, tears in his eyes. "No, mija, and you should never let anyone take your pride, no matter how hard they try." The flags still wave outside his home, proud, defiant, and untouchable. And as you hear this story, ask yourself, how many others are silently bullied into hiding who they are? How many families are told they don't belong, even after giving everything to be here? Because Carlos's fight isn't just his. It's every immigrant's, every minority family's, every person who believes that dignity is worth defending. So the next time someone tells you to stay quiet, remember Carlos's flag. And remember what can happen when one person refuses to bow to hate. If this story touched you, don't just watch. Be part of the change. Hit subscribe and join our community of voices that matter.